Shalom. Thanks for tuning in to the Restorers of Truth Ministries YouTube channel. I'm Elder Isaac Hill. We are continuing a scripture study, Midrash teaching on answering two questions. One, if you are a Christian, why are you still a Christian? Two, if you are still using the name Jesus and the term God, why are you still using that name and why are you still using that term? Now, this is the fourth part of that series, Why Are You Still? And so in this particular scripture nugget, we're going to go back and we're going to look at the words of Yochanan. Previously, we looked at the words of Moshe, and we also looked at the words of Yahushua. Today, we're going to begin by looking at the words of Yochanan, and some refer to him as John the Baptist or John the Immerser, but we're going to look at the words of Yochanan, and we're going to use his words to prove that Yahushua did not come to teach or preach another doctrine. Because if you say that you are a Christian, there must be some level or some word, some scripture that you base that particular emunah belief in. And so we're going to look at the words of Yochanan to see if we can answer those two questions. We're going to begin in Yochanan chapter 3. Now, in this particular chapter, many of you already know that this involves the born-again message that Yahushua is well known for. And this also is the chapter in which Yochanan and some of his Talmudim or his disciples came to him and said, hey, Yochanan, the one that you have immersed and the one that you have witnessed about and concerning, he's out doing immersion himself. And I want you to understand what Yochanan replied. Now, beginning in chapter 3, verse 32, now this is the words of Yochanan. Look what he said. He said, and what he has seen and heard, and this is after he said, he must increase so that I can decrease. He says, what he has seen and heard, that he witnesses. Now, who is he referring to? Yahushua. What he has seen and heard is what he's going to witness to. What he's going to witness about. What he has seen and what he has heard. Okay? So he's not going to witness about anything new. He's not going to come and share something that is different, something that is called Christianity. He can't do that, or else he would not fulfill the role of the Mashiach, according to Devarim, what Moshe says in chapter 18. So Yochanan says, what he has seen and heard, that he witnesses, and no one receives his witness. Verse 33, Yochanan chapter 3. He who receives his witness has set his seal that Elohim is true. Now look at verse 34. For he whom Elohim has sent speaks the words of Elohim, for Elohim does not give the spirit or the ruach by measure. Now what is Yochanan saying here? He's witnessing regarding Yahushua. He's sent to witness regarding the Mashiach. And so with his own words, he's saying, he whom Elohim has sent speaks the words of Elohim. Now, if Elohim says Christianity should be what you believe and what you follow, and you should be called a Christian, then you must find that somewhere within the text of Torah. You must find that somewhere in the text of the Nabim or the prophets. You must find it somewhere in there. For he whom Elohim has sent speaks the words of Elohim. Now I want you to think about that just for a second. He who has been sent of Elohim can only speak the words of Elohim. He cannot witness to something else. He can only witness to the words of Elohim. Now, I want you to think about this, those of you that say that you're in ministry or that you have a call upon your life to teach the words of Yahuah, the words of Elohim. If you say that you have a call and you teach Christianity, then one must have to find in Christianity some level of base within the Torah that Christianity is okay. And you can't find that. There's no reference within Torah. There's no reference within the renewed covenant. There's no reference within the Besorah. There's no reference within what many call the gospel. There's no reference to that. For he whom Elohim has sent speaks the words of Elohim. For Elohim does not give the Spirit by measure. Then what is Yochanan saying? Yochanan himself, a forerunner, is actually quoting Yeshayahu or Isaiah. Okay? And so as he's quoting this, it's another sign, there's another code, if I could say that, is that everyone that has been sent by Elohim, they either use the Torah or the prophets to prove Yahuah is correct. Now let's look at Yochanan chapter 7. We're going to look at the words of Yahushua. Now this is around the time of Sukkot, and this is basically the origin of some teachings that Yahushua did concerning himself. Now, in Yochanan chapter 7, verse 16, again around the time of Sukkot, or what some call tabernacle, but Yahushua answered in verse 16, Yochanan 7:16, and answered them and said, my teaching is not mine. Now let's stop for a moment. If his teachings is not his, where does he get his teaching? If the teaching is not his, it must be from Elohim. And if it's from Elohim, then the words that he say has to be located in Torah, because the Torah was given to his people. He says, my teaching is not mine, but his who sent me. If anyone desires to do his desire, and remember last time when, I think it's in part 3, maybe in part 2, we looked at the word desire, and the word desire from the Greek is theluma, kalama. Now, he says, if anyone desires to do his desire, he shall know concerning the teaching, whether it is from Elohim, or whether I speak for myself. And basically what Yahushua is basically trying to get us to see is that he is not speaking. There's nothing that he spoke that came directly from him. What did Yochanan said in chapter 3? He is going to witness only the things and speak only the things that he heard from Elohim. Now, he says in verse 18, Yochanan chapter 7, verse 18, Yahushua says, he who speaks for him or from himself is seeking his own esteem. But he who seeks the esteem of the one who sent him is true, and there is no unrighteousness in him. Okay? Now, another scripture I want to bring out is what Yahushua says in Yochanan chapter 8, verse 28. And also in verse 47. So Yahushua said to them, when you lift up the son of Adam, then you shall know that I am he, and that I do none at all of myself, but as my Father taught me, these words I speak. In verse 47, he says, he who is of Elohim hears the words of Elohim. Therefore you do not hear, because you are not of Elohim. If you hear the words of Elohim, you know that Yahushua came to speak the words of Elohim. He is of Elohim. He didn't come to speak of himself. He did not come to speak of something different. He's only speaking the words of Elohim. Okay, now, look what it says in chapter 14, Yochanan chapter 14, verse 10. Another quote that Yahushua made. He says, "Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself, but the Father stays in me, does his works. The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself." In other words, I'm not bringing up things out of my head. I'm not bringing things up out of my own doctrine, my own teaching. All of this comes from Yahuah. All this comes from Elohim. I'm not trying to start something new. I'm not trying to do something different. I'm only speaking the words that I witness. I only speak the words that I hear. What did Yochanan say? Remember, Yochanan is a forerunner. He's a forerunner. He has to fit the role of the forerunner and describe the Mashiach when he comes, that he's going to be someone that speaks the words of Elohim. The words of Elohim. He's not speaking another word. Now let's look at some last scriptures here. Yochanan, chapter 17, verse 8. Again, the words of Yahushua. "Because the words which you have gave to me, I have given to them." Oh, and look at this. The words you have gave to me, I gave to them. So if he have given them the words to start Christianity or to begin Christianity, then that has to be somewhere within the words of Elohim. And everyone know that the words of Elohim, the words that was given, is in Moshe. It's in the prophets or the Naviim. Now, if we could find that, then we can justify Christianity. But if we can't find it, then we have to question Christianity. Let's look at this again. "Because the words which you gave to me, I have given to them." Now here's the thing that I love to use a quote that my wife quoted one time. She said, "Why would Yahuah give a word to the Israelites that they can walk in kosher, that they can Shabbat, and then start something called Christianity for the Goyim, the Gentiles, the heathens, the nations, and tell them that you are now part of the family, you're now part of the Mishpachah, you're now part of my people, you're now part of a covenant, but you don't have to walk in kosher, and you don't have to walk in Shabbat, you don't have to do the feast. You can eat swine, you can eat whatever you want to eat, but all of you are up under one house." Now I want you to think about that for a moment. Imagine, if you will, you have adopted some children and you bring your children to your home. You tell your children by seed, by birth, that, "Remember, children, you don't have to, or we're not going to eat pork. You're not supposed to eat pork. You're not supposed to eat shellfish. You're not supposed to eat anything that is listed in the Torah." But then now we have some adopted people that we're going to join to our family. We're going to allow them to eat whatever they want to eat. We're going to allow them to believe whatever they want to believe. Now remember, children, we're one family. We live up under one roof. But it's okay for them to go against the rules, the policy, the standards that's of this house, because they're adopted. Doesn't sound right, does it? But I want you to think about that. That's what you're saying about Christianity. That it's okay to believe one way and to behave in another way. That is totally opposite of what the root is doing and what the root is saying. Who is the root? Those that are already in the household. So we have to think about that. Now again, this is part 4 of the series, Why Are You Still a Christian? And Why Are You Still Using the Name Jesus and the term God? Now on next Scripture Nugget, the next Scripture Nugget, part 5, we're going to begin to address the name. The name. So shalom, shalom. We'll see you next time on Scripture Nugget.